I was 23 and had just moved back to my hometown after college, unsure of where my life was going but certain I needed a place to land while I figured it out. My sister, Emma, 10 years older and ever the responsible one, offered me her guest room. It seemed like a perfect short-term fix. She had a big house on the edge of town, a quiet neighborhood, and what she described as peaceful energy. Her husband, David, was a calm presence. At 35, he was more reserved than most people I knew, always polite, always helpful. He worked as an architect and kept strange hours sometimes, poring over blueprints late into the night. When I arrived, he carried my bags in without being asked and offered me a glass of water before I'd even set my coat down. I thanked him a little awkwardly. He had that way about him that made you unsure whether he was just being nice or watching you carefully behind quiet eyes. The first few days passed without incident. Emma was busy with her job at the hospital, often gone for 12-hour shifts, and I filled my time half-heartedly applying for jobs and reading books I never finished. In the evenings we'd sometimes eat together, talk about old memories or watch reruns of cooking shows. Then came that late night. It was a Friday. Emma had the night shift, and I was home alone with David. We rarely interacted without her around, and to be honest, I preferred it that way. Not that David wasn't kind, he was just hard to read. That night, though, something broke the routine. I'd been struggling with an old laptop that refused to connect to Wi-Fi, frustrated enough to consider throwing it off the porch. David passed by the kitchen and noticed me scowling at the screen. "Need some help?" he asked. I glanced up. "Yeah. If you know anything about stubborn electronics." He walked over and took a look. "Sometimes these things just need a little reset. Mind if I give it a shot?" I stepped aside and he sat down. To my surprise, within 10 minutes the laptop connected. I clapped my hands together. "You're a genius." He gave a small smile. "Just persistent." "Still," I said. "You saved me a trip to the library." I offered him a drink in thanks, just soda, and we ended up talking for a while at the kitchen table. To my surprise, conversation came easily. We talked about music, books, and the places we both wanted to visit. He told me about how he and Emma had driven cross-country once in their 20s, stopping in small towns, sleeping in their car half the time. I told him about the time I got lost on a hiking trail in Oregon and had to be rescued by a group of middle-aged birdwatchers. The hours passed. Before I realized it, it was close to midnight. I stood up, stretching, and said, "I should probably get to bed before I turn into a zombie." He laughed and nodded. "Same here. Early start tomorrow." But as I was heading to my room, he called out, "Hey, thanks for the company tonight. It was nice." "Yeah," I said. "It really was." And that was all. Nothing dramatic. Just a quiet moment between two people who rarely got a chance to talk. The next morning, Emma came home smiling, and everything continued as normal. But something shifted in how I saw David. He wasn't just my sister's husband. He was also a person, someone with thoughts and stories and struggles of his own. And strangely, after that night, I felt less like a guest in the house, and more like someone who belonged.